Pop, what's going on, man?
How you doing, son?
Doing good, doing good. Excited to talk a little ball here, man. Excited to talk some ball. Fired up. Been looking forward to this one. But, man, I don't see any Masters talk on this outline. Maybe that'll be my reward if we get through here quickly. Maybe we'll hit a
You
little,
get
hit a little Masters
a little
recap.
shout out. You
Yeah.
can give a little shout out to
Little
Rory.
shout out. What an absolute treat that was this weekend. I mean, yesterday and today, just two of the best rounds of competitive golf I've ever seen. I mean, Rory just absolutely started off so hot on Thursday and then kind of peters out, ends up with even par. I was shocked that he was even. And at first, it was looking like Justin Rose was just going to run away with it. And then just slowly but surely, Rory comes back. Rory looks like, okay, you can turn this one off. It's over. And I was watching with Morgan. I'm telling her, hey, these things can change really fast, and Rose is sticking around. And for Rose to battle back the way that he did, I mean, Rory and DeChambeau just throwing haymakers to start the round today. Shame about Bryson not being able to kind of keep it going throughout the round. Even Alberg at times just getting hot, and then the meltdown he had. Just an unbelievable sporting event. I mean, I just had an absolute blast watching that the last couple of days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just a huge shout out to Rory for just being an absolute pro. Pop battling through. Pop's playing hurt today.
Playing hurt. The worst thing you could possibly have is a cough.
When you're a podcaster, right? But. Yeah, but Pop's gonna tough through it. I'm gonna try and tough through it. We're gonna be good. Been a tumultuous week for the program, but we're here bringing you some ball talk. So there's your Masters recap. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to Rory. Congrats to Rory. Rory.
Yeah, he showed a lot of courage. I mean, he had a lot of chances to put it away, and getting that extra time, he thought it was advantage. Justin, because he played such a much better round. But, happy to see Rory get it done. Career Grand Slam, pretty awesome. Not many guys have done that.
Awesome. Rory's a guy I've always rooted for since I think it was like 2011 when he won his first major, kind of like broke onto the scene, and I was just watching him, and it was the first time I remember I was like sat and I watched with you. I can't remember what major it was, but I came back to school. And I was talking with my friends about it, and everybody in the 8th grade at the middle school I went to was determined that golf was lame until that weekend. And everybody came in the next day and was like, guys, golf's actually really cool. Like, that was sick. So shout out to Rory, and I'm an avid golfer now. Shout out to Rory. It's so cool to see him get that win. We had a lot of fun watching that this weekend, and this is great. Nothing like Masters Sunday, but anyways, it's over now. We're bringing you Commanders Draft Talk, the long-awaited Commanders Draft Talk. Had to get some wide receiver talk in there. Had to get a couple evergreen episodes in with some scheduling stuff, but we're back live, getting into the Draft Talk. We have that NFL Draft coming up. I mean, what's it, in 2 weeks now? It's like right around the corner.
Says it right there on the outline, April 24th to April 26th.
That would be helpful if I knew what day it was.
Thursday.
I don't know what day it is.
You know what day it is today?
Today, that's the issue. I don't know what the
I can't help you there, son.
13th, yeah, exactly, the 13th.
10 days from when this podcast
10 days from when you guys will be watching.
Yeah.
What a start the boys are off to today, man. Just fire it. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Commanders have 5 picks. They're picking 29, 61 round 2, 128 in round 4, 205 in round 6, and then 245 in round 7. So however many picks that was, hope you counted as I went. We're going to focus mostly on the top 3 picks here, who the Commanders are going to target there. And we're going to do mostly the top 2.
Actually, top 2.
Top 2, but in terms of actual prospects. But, Pop, what positions do you want to focus on? Where are you at? Are you straight BPA at this point? Are you focused on specific positions? Do you have guys even that you want? Where are you at?
I mean, we'll go through some of the guys. I figure like this week we're going to do mock drafts. We're going to just talk to what the experts are saying. And next week, maybe we can get into a couple of those draft simulators. We usually do like a mock draft of our own. But maybe we'll, given that we're 29th, which is awesome, We're not in the top 10 this year because usually we'll do a mock draft and then get to the Commanders pick and stop.
Yeah.
But, maybe we'll run one of those simulators. I noticed that PF Pro Football Network has one that maybe we can get into. But, it's for me, position-wise, I think we did this topic before free agency, and I said offensive line, defensive line, and then maybe cornerback or something like that. But given the fact that we did such a great job addressing the offensive line, we've addressed receiver. I probably had receiver in there at that point. For me, I think it's edge, right? I mean, if best player available is edge, you want to go there. I'd love to see us pick up a running back, add a weapon as a running back. And then I think it's cornerback / safety maybe, but something in the secondary. I think those would be the three. Maybe not necessarily in that order, and that's where the best player available may come into play. If you target those three spots. They really, if they picked a receiver, you wouldn't hate that, right? I mean, we talked about the lack of some uncertainty at that number 3 spot, and now Debo's not really a true number 2 outside guy, kind of a bit of a hybrid. So you wouldn't hate that either if there was value in the pick you got. But edge would be the ideal situation, I think.
I got to give you a little bit of pushback on the whole Debo's not a true number 2 thing. Sure, he doesn't play strictly the Y. Fine. But Debo's the number 2 option on this offense. That's why they brought him in to do that. He was the number 2 option.
He could be the number 1 option at many times. I just kind of meant he's not an outside, traditional outside receiver. That's what
I'm not speaking necessarily. I'm not speaking necessarily to your point as much as I am the kind of general conversation around Debo sometimes when it comes to him not being a number 2. He's absolutely a worthy number 2 option on an offense. Absolutely. He might not play that wide receiver 2 Y position, but Cooper Kupp doesn't play X, but he's the wide receiver 1 or was the wide receiver 1 on the Rams in the slot, right? It doesn't necessarily mean just because a guy plays slot or plays a hybrid position that he can't be that guy.
Because of his skill set, he might get more touches and be featured more than Terry.
Very possible.
In terms of the option in the offense, because he can get touches out of the backfield, he's going to play in your screen game. He can be a possession receiver. He's without question easily the number 2 option in the offense.
You should go into every game hoping that Terry and Debo total for about 16 to 20 touches. That should be the goal, that the 2 of them total for about 20. Anyways, getting back to the draft talk. For me,
like that.
I'm straight BPA all day unless it's a quarterback. That's where I'm at right now. I think we've filled in enough holes on this roster across the board. We've added enough depth behind some of those holes that we filled in. I'm not saying we're the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's be clear. I'm not saying we have the best roster in the NFL, but I'm saying we have serviceable guys at every position. We can upgrade, sure. We can do better, sure. But we have serviceable guys at just about every position across the board that can play their role, right? So that sets you up just much like it did last year going into the draft. Most people didn't have defensive tackle as a position of need going into the draft last year. We took one in the second round. Most people didn't necessarily have, I guess corner was considered. But we ended up picking tight end, for example, was not something that a lot of people were thinking about with Ertz coming in. Ended up picking another one in the second round. So when you fill in those holes, you're able to go BPA down the draft board. So I think that's definitely something that we're going to do again this year.
But don't you think that if they don't address edge, how would you this is a question I have for you because I was thinking about this conversation. If they don't address edge, how do you feel about going into the season with our existing defensive line?
Well, it's a 2-pronged question. How do I feel about going into the season with our existing defensive line? I certainly think that's a point of weakness for the roster. 100%. I don't feel like it's necessarily absolutely devastating to the team where it's at right now because I think we've improved on the defensive line since last year, and I think we won 12 games and went to the NFC Championship last year. So I don't think it's absolutely going to be a massive detriment to the team. I think in terms of the depth
It's
guys that you've
to be
added,
seen.
I think you've improved personally. Maybe I'm a little bullish on the changes, but I think we've improved across the board. John Allen didn't play for most of last year, so it's hard to kind of evaluate him as a part of that performance, and he wasn't all that great when he came back. Anyways, I think it depends on who you get. If you get Omari and Hampton and he turns into the second coming of Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't care. If you get Travion Henderson and he ends up being a stud, I don't care. If you get if you choose them over an edge at 29 that's available, like Mike Green, for example, if you get that guy, if you choose Ibuka over him and Ibuka becomes 1,000-yard wide receiver next year, I don't care. It's about the impact at that position has to be, you got to hit. If you're not going to draft some of those positions of need, you're going to go best player available.
Oh,
That would be that best player available.
I agree with you. Like, I don't think we should reach. But what would be your three if you had a perfect case scenario?
Three perfect case scenario in no particular order is probably running back, edge, wide receiver would be my three.
Over corner? Yeah. Okay.
I have, again, maybe bullish, maybe just the mood I'm in today. I feel good about Lattimore. But I feel good about Lattimore. I feel good about Samuel. I feel good about that guy from the Pats we've added that I can't name, so clearly I don't feel that good about him. But anyways, that's where I'm at. But
there was one bit of news I forgot to put on the outline. One bit of news I want to ask you about real quick. We'll just 60 seconds on this. But one thing, like you mentioned, we put a couple of pods in the queue because we had some scheduling things going on.
Yeah.
They announced Brandon Coleman at right tackle. What'd you think of that?
I don't put a ton of stock into that at the moment because you're not going to know until you get to OTAs and camp. But I think he definitely can be a great right tackle. I think he was a pretty good left tackle. So I think he can be a good right tackle.
Here's why I think that makes a lot of sense. Here's what, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to find a right tackle than guards.
Exactly.
So give him that opportunity to prove he's a, top half of the league right tackle, let's call it, right? And if he can prove that, and if he could play that position, he filled in more than adequately at left tackle. Why not give him an opportunity to do that?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, you've got Wiley. You could always kick him in the guard. So I think it makes a lot of sense that that's the first thing you try him at.
And I think he starts the season at right tackle. We see how Wiley does inside at guard. I think Wiley that probably means Wiley's going to play right guard.
Yes.
While Cosme's out. And then if Wiley's playing well at guard and maybe Allegretti or Nasty Nate is struggling at left guard, you pop Wiley over to left guard, Cosme comes back at right guard, and you got dogs on that offensive line. So I personally think we're going to be okay on the offensive line, and the boy Laramie Tunsil does a lot.
I think we can be more than okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to actually be pretty strong on the offensive line, and I like Coleman there at right tackle. I think it's a great move for him personally. Anyways, keeping it moving here. In terms of mock drafts for rounds 1 and 2, how do you want to do this, Pop? I'll defer to you. You want to go round 1 all down the board, or you want to go round 1, round 2 for each expert that we have here? We got 3 experts here.
I think you can run through. Why don't you run through all 3, 1 and 2, and then if you want to weave in some of the comments, that's great. And then I think we'll comment on it. I think that'll be efficient because if we stop and talk, maybe we talk about which one we like the best, which scenario we like the best, or mix and match, that's fine. I mean, how do you feel about, quickly before we get into it, sticking with these picks? Or I've heard JP Finley quite a bit say he thinks they're trading back. Yeah. So what do you think? And if they did trade back, what scenario would you want to look at? Like going a little later? And I don't want to give up too much in terms of, I like the idea of this first and second round pick being guys we stick with, because these guys, I think, could compete for starting roles. So I don't know if I want to trade back.
Yeah. So it depends. So it's I mean, when you look at what happened last year, so the trading back, first of all, somebody's got to want to trade up, which means there's got to be a player that somebody feels strongly enough about on the board that they want to pay you extra for that
Right.
player. Cool. On top of that, you got to be sure that you don't want that guy. So, for example, last year, the Chiefs traded up with the Bills to get Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs moved from the 32nd pick to the 28th pick, so they moved up only 4 spots, and the Chiefs sent the Bills the 32nd pick, a 4th round pick, and a 7th round pick. So that's about the comp that you're looking at there. You're looking at 4th and maybe a 6th, 4th and a 7th, 4th and a 4th from next year, something like that to move up. And then moving back a few spots, or moving back in it, maybe you get a 2nd round pick and a 3rd or something along those lines. But that's kind of the situation. I personally just don't I don't see that much gain in getting another guy in the 4th round that might be a good backup, might be a fringe starter. If there's a guy there, and the types of guys that are hovering around that 29th pick, I'm a quality over quantity guy personally. With where this roster is at right now, with what they've done in free agency. If you still needed a left tackle, if you still needed, some more help at corner, I would be okay with it. But I personally think with what they've done in free agency, even if you end up running it back, which the fan base is going to hate, even if you end up running it back with a healthy Brian Robinson next year at running back, you'll be okay. And thankfully, the 2 positions that we need, edge and running back, are some of the deepest positions in the draft. So I don't necessarily see the need to necessarily trade back, because I think there will be a baller at 29 that you don't want to pass on. So should we start talking about some of those ballers? Where are you at? Do you want to trade back, or you kind of feel the same way I do?
I kind of feel the same way you do. I mean, if you could slide back a pick or 2.
Yeah.
So you're not out of the 1st round or very early in the 2nd round, maybe. But I'd be perfectly fine with rolling with these first 2 picks.
With rolling with what we got. Yeah, of course. Again, guys, playing hurt. Bear with us here. We got this. We got this. Still, I think still. I mean, how many games did Jaden win on that bum rib? I think we're still better than our wins above replacement is still positive, even when we're both playing
great.
A little bit hurt here.
Let's talk about these.
Let's get into these draft picks here. So, Mel Kiper, the Oracle, has Shamar Stewart, defensive end from Texas A&M. I'm not into this pick at all.
That one worries me too.
And then Darian Porter at cornerback from Ohio State for our 2nd pick. I'm not going to go out and tell you that I think I know a ton about cornerbacks.
It's intriguing from what you're reading
in the 2nd round. But yeah, from seeing that, former receiver, 4.3 speed, plenty of length, ball skills. That sounds Dan Quinn-esque. Sounds like you could maybe turn him into a beast. I don't think corner's that big a need to spend a 2nd round pick on him. But if this is a guy that you think you've got really high, if this is a Johnny Newton situation where it's like you've got this guy really high on your draft board and he somehow is still there at the 2nd round, take him. Sure, why not? Pro Football Network has my pick for 29. Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. This guy's a stud, in my opinion. I think he has the potential to be one of the best safeties in the league, as does Pro Football Network. And I just hope he makes it there to 29. But they haven't making him there at 29. And they say he's, just a result of safeties kind of always falling down the draft board a little bit. And then round 2, Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State, 27 catches for 284 yards, 1,016 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, never fumbled in college.
I'd be doing a hell of a happy dance if we got him in round 2.
Absolute. Pick him at 29. I said it. We all had a good laugh about Jahmyr Gibbs when the Lions did it, and Dan Campbell was crying in the locker room. Who's laughing now? Pick him at 29. If he's there at 29, pick him. I'm serious.
He'll probably be there at 29.
Anyways, NFL.com. I love that pick. If you haven't already gathered that, NFL.com has Mike Green, edge. These are really good edge. I'd be really into
If
that
he
as
makes it
well.
to 29, that would be a great pick.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
definitely
he's a
be happy about that.
really good player. And then they have Trey Harris, who's another guy I really like. Now, Pop, this is when you ask me, Dominic, why don't you want to go wide receiver in round 2?
Why don't you want to go wide receiver in round 2, Dominic?
Because I'd like to take Ty Felton and keep him home at pick 128. I think he'll be there in round 4. I would like to go ahead and draft him. I think he's actually going to be a really good player, and I think he fits what we need at wide receiver. He's got that field stretching ability. He's got that speed, bigger body. I'd be into getting me some Ty Felton later on in the draft. I think he can come in and help right away. And he's
Love that. Love that.
It's shown to be a very productive player. I think some of these guys that are really productive at smaller programs that show that they can, not that Maryland's a small program, but it's not an SEC school either, that show that they can get they show they can be 8 target a game guys, 10 target a game guys, and be that productive. I think those guys are valuable in my opinion. So I would love that if they did that. But I like Trey Harris a lot too, man. This is a really, really good player. I mean, second team All-American. How can you be mad at that?
Not going to complain.
Missed 5 games, like soft tissue stuff. I think it's just his lower body injury here. I'm going to go ahead and guess it's like an ankle sprain or a soft tissue. But those things happen to receivers.
Ty Felton from Ashburn, Virginia.
Yeah.
He could just live with mom and dad.
Yeah, he should. He should stack that money, man.
Yeah.
But I would love to do that. To keep him home. The only guys out of this list I'm not so stoked about is Shamar Stewart, just because we drafted a couple of defensive ends that had all the speed, explosiveness, and power in the world that didn't really develop into their ceiling. And I don't really want to do that at pick 29, honestly. I think it's a little high for a project, personally. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted a project at number 1 overall that never really panned out for them. This happens every year. Somebody drafts this prototypical freak defensive end that doesn't end up being that guy. And unless your name is Chase Young, you don't get a massive contract a few years later. So I'm not particularly stoked on Shamar Stewart personally, but I think, I'm sorry, man. I don't know why it gets me. It's terrible. It's cruel.
Suffering over here.
It's not fair.
Suffering over here.
It's just such a funny face. I don't know. I might edit that out. I might leave it in. We're 23 minutes in at this point. I feel like those of you who get it, get it. But anyways, it's just such a cruel son you got over here. I feel so terrible. But anyways, so a couple names. The kid from Ohio State, Emeka Ibuka, if he's there, I would love that. Luther Burden, I would love at 29 if he's there. I don't think either of them make it there. But otherwise, yeah.
Pro Football Network has Ty Felton going 78, by the way. So long gone.
78, wow.
Long gone by 128.
Wow.
I thought that strategy.
I thought he was a 3rd, 4th round pick last time I checked.
So, yeah, I mean, we're going to get into, we probably didn't advertise it as well as we could, although we'll put it in the title. We're going to get into NFL mock drafts for the top 10 and then some key notables in a minute here. But, I mean, in terms of what I like here, I think if you could get Mike Green would be definitely my favorite pick of these mocks.
Yeah.
Don't know that he'll be there, but if we've got to go with something, and then it's without a doubt Trevion Henderson at running back in the 2nd round would be the favorite of this picks. Wouldn't hate Trey Harris or picking up a corner if they think that Darian Porter has tons of upside. So I agree with you. The least favorite is the Shamar Stewart pick. That just his stats just don't jump out at you, and seems like a bit of a project. And I feel like that's reaching for an edge versus picking best player available in that situation. So
Yeah, I personally am probably biased towards Malachi Starks here. That would be my first pick out of these guys. But I would love Mike Green. I just don't see him making it there, and that's what we're going to get into here
yeah,
in the mock drafts. How about a little Malachi Starks and then trade up to get Travion Henderson? Move up a little bit in the second round to get him. Just secure that for me, please. Just leave the draft with Trey Anderson here. Thank you. Good talk. Anyways, let's get into this. So we're doing around the league, our top 10 NFL mock draft. I'm going to rip through this pop,
yeah.
save you the voice. But seems the consensus number one overall pick for the Tennessee Titans is Mr. Cam Ward out of Miami. Need a quarterback, get a quarterback. It's that simple. He's available. They need a quarterback. He's the best quarterback available in the draft.
Seems pretty unanimous. That's going to be a done deal.
They're going to go ahead and take a swing on him. Here's why I don't hate this. If you get him and he's good and you answer the quarterback question, great. If you get him and he stinks, you're going to be right back there picking in a couple years. So take a swing, personally. That's what I think.
Interesting
Pick the
logic.
quarterback when he's there. Cleveland Browns, number 2. Looks like Travis Hunter seems to be the consensus there, although Pro Football Network has Shadur Sanders going to Cleveland. Travis Hunter, I think, could be either a great wide receiver or cornerback, depending on which position he wants
Seems
to
like
play.
That's the choice, right? It's either Travis or Shadur if you want to reach for the quarterback. I mean, Cleveland did just sign Joe Flacco, one of the biggest splashes in free agency.
Huge.
Major news.
Yeah.
They've also got Kenny Pickett. So
what a battle.
I don't know. I mean, you hear so many different things about Shadur, and you'll see, through as you go through these picks that where he's picked in different mock drafts.
Yeah.
But what would you do here? Travis Hunter's such a talent.
Sell the team. Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so good. Definitely go Travis Hunter. New York Giants at number 3. You've got Abdul Carter, who I thought was a number 1 overall pick conversation for a while,
so
too.
the first one's Kuiper, second one's NFL.com, third one's PFN, just to kind of...
Yeah. Kuiper has Abdul Carter. NFL.com has Shadur Sanders because NFL.com is taking Travis Hunter. And then Pro Football Network has Travis Hunter going to the
after
Giants at
Shadur.
number 3.
Yeah.
Which, boy, would I hate.
So if you're the New York Giants and Shadur Sanders is there, I think this is kind of the most interesting topic, right?
Yeah.
And Travis Hunter's off the board.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I don't know. It's tough. I'm probably taking Abdul Carter over Shadur personally. But maybe they don't feel that way. I don't think. I think they got Russell Wilson, and I don't think you go out and get Russell Wilson if the plan is not for him to be the starter this year. You can go ahead and get Shadur and say it's a project, but that situation's such a disaster there. I think they need to win now to save jobs. We know a thing or two about that in DC. And so I think the best chance at them winning now to save jobs is going to be to get a disruptive edge rusher and Abdul Carter and kind of stack strength on that defensive line, personally.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Solid.
But if Travis Hunter's there, you definitely take him. Then you go to the New England Patriots at number 4, who I think might trade back. But they have them taking Will Campbell out of LSU. That's not a bad choice. I think the only issue with New England trading back, or Kuiper has Will Campbell, NFL.com has Abdul Carter, and Pro Football Network has Abdul Carter as well. So some combination of Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, and Cam Ward is going off in those first 4 picks. That seems to be pretty much consensus. But New England can add to that defensive line. They just added Milton Williams as well, so all of a sudden it looks like they've got a pretty solid defensive line. That's the situation in New England. Jacksonville at number 5, Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, both for Kuiper and NFL.com. And then Pro Football Network has him taking Tyler Warren out of Penn State. You want to talk about just absolute dream scenarios. That guy, gets a photo leaked of him hitting a gas mask like Laramie Tunzel and he drops down to 29. That would be perfect. Tyler Warren is just an animal, and there's no world in which he ends up in burgundy and gold, but that'd be cool. So I think that'll make sense. The Jags moved on from Evan Ingram, so that's a strong possibility. At number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders. Both, again, Kuiper and NFL.com are in lockstep here. They've got them taking Ashton Genty out of Boise State. Pete Carroll's there now. He likes to run the football. Makes sense. And Pro Football Network has him taking Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri.
Sounds good to me.
That's the best guess I can give you at that. Offensive tackle out of Missouri, and
first
situation.
Offensive lineman off the board.
Would not be, because Will Campbell is the first offensive lineman off the board via Kuiper at number 4. But for Pro Football Network's mock, yes.
Right.
My bad. Then the New York Jets come right back around. Kuiper has the Jets taking that same fella, Armand M. out of Missouri. Here's one for you. Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi. Number 7 via
Can you
NFL.
do that if you're the Jets?
This is such clickbait.
Yeah.
Remember when they had Matt Corral going like number 9? That's what I see here. Maybe Dart doesn't make it out of the end of the first round, but we'll talk about him later.
But I think they've already placed their bets right at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So like they just can't see how that makes any sense at all.
And they've said multiple times.
Take that.
They've also said, like, I think somebody asked Justin Fields, like, hey, would you be good to be like a bridge? And he's like, I'm happy to teach what I know, but the plan is to start and compete to start. And then the Jets came out and said the plan is for Justin Fields to be the starter. So I don't see that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Whatever. Pro Football Network has Will Campbell going there, so they just flipped the order of the tackles, but tackles as well. And then you have Carolina Panthers at number 8. Jalon Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. Tyler Warren for NFL.com. Kuiper had Jalon Walker. NFL.com had Tyler Warren out of Penn State. And Pro Football Network had Shamar Stewart. So they do not have him making it to 29 out of Texas A&M. Then at number 9, the New Orleans Saints, NFL or Kuiper / ESPN still does not have Shadur Sanders off the board. So this is where he goes off the board for the Saints. Which I think that's a situation that makes a lot of sense for him. He could start maybe halfway through the year, something like that. I'm sure he'd like New Orleans better than Cleveland. No offense to Cleveland. And then NFL.com has Jalon Walker going there, linebacker out of Georgia, and same thing with Pro Football Network, Jalon Walker as well. It might be Jalen. I don't know. I'm going to go with Jalon. Number 10, Chicago Bears take Tyler Warren per Mel Kuiper. NFL.com has our boy Armand M, offensive tackle, and Pro Football Network has Ashton Genty going off here at number 10. So Genty definitely not making it out of the top 10. Shadur definitely not making it out of the top 10. Some other notable guys. Tyler Warren definitely not making it out of the top 10. That's the breakdown there.
You like either one of those for the Bears, right? If they pick up that tight end to get another weapon, or even Ashton Genty would be a great pick for them.
Yeah. I think Genty makes a lot of sense there. I don't think he'll be there. I think he goes to the Raiders, but I think Genty would make a ton of sense there. I wonder if they just say screw it and they take Omari and Hampton there, who we'll talk about in a minute here. But I think Tyler Warren would be great for them. Not so great for me. I'm a Cole Kmet guy. I hold some Cole Kmet.
You're saying
shares.
If Genty's off the board.
If Genty's off the board, I could see them taking Omari and Hampton. Because they could definitely use running back. But yeah, I think all three of those scenarios, if you're a Bears fan, you're very happy with. They've had a good free agency. They've won the offseason yet again. See how it pulls off for you fellas. But moving forward, other notables, we'll look at the Dallas Cowboys. They've got Omarion Hampton going there at 12 because Ashton Genty's not making it out of the top 10. And then both NFL.com and Pro Football Network have. It's such a shame I can't say his first name because I know his game and I really like him and I wish he was going to be there at 29. But McMillan. McMillan out of Arizona.
T. McMillan.
T. McMillan out of Arizona. McMillan's going to be on the back of the jersey. We got that one covered. McMillan out of Arizona.
I mean, I hate to see it, but either one of those would be smart picks for the Cowboys. I think either the running back or wide receiver. They need weapons.
Yeah,
they need weapons.
Big. Yeah, I hope neither of these guys end up there. I hope they pick like an offensive lineman or something. But Omarion Hampton going there would be such a shame because I do secretly hope he sneaks down to number 29 for us. Number 27, the Ravens is another notable. We always like to talk a little Ravens on this pod.
One's interesting because they picked 2 picks before us, and they've stealing a couple of guys we might be interested in.
Yeah, which would just Malachi Starks out of Georgia going to the Ravens would just be like drafting Jahan Dotson, and that would just be like them taking Kyle Hamilton 2 picks before we picked all over again. And we got Jim Daniels out of it.
Well, that duo,
it's cool.
Starks and Hamilton would be.
But yeah, Starks and Hamilton would just be absolutely potential to have one of the best safety duos in the league. I think any safety that lines up next to Kyle Hamilton, you probably have one of the best safety duos in the league already, but especially if you had Starks. And he turns out to be what we think he could be. They've got some cool young pieces at defensive back in Baltimore. They'd be starting to build something pretty cool there. And then Mike Green, edge. This is where I think they go if he's still on the board. I think they need pass rusher more than anything else there. So I could see that being the pick. At number 32, talk a little Eagles. They have James Pierce Jr. From Tennessee going there, or they have Donovan Eziraku out of Boston College. Apologies, Donovan. Don't know how to say that name. First time I've ever seen it. Donnie E. But that's generally the take there, adding some kind of defensive. I mean, the Eagles are just going to go best player available. NFL.com does have them trading back with the Rams, which is interesting because then I don't know who the Rams would take in that spot. But they do have them trading back. I wouldn't hate Philly trading back. I think that makes sense. I think they're just trying to stack up draft picks right now. Howie has just stacked so many comp picks and stuff like that. And they've got to start paying guys. So I think they've really backloaded that cap. They've got to start paying guys in these next few years. So I think they're going to start stacking draft picks because the reality of it is, as we saw in the last offseason, some guys are going to have to start walking out of Philadelphia. And hey, Super Bowl 55-23, whatever BS you want to throw at me for saying that, it's just reality. It's a great problem to have when you have a really talented team and a lot of guys have to walk because you can't pay everybody. But that's the reality. So I think they're probably trading back here would be my guess. And then other notable outcomes, Jackson Dart goes to the Rams at 26. Jackson Dart per Mel Kiper, which I think is a great landing spot for somebody like that. Stafford's got a couple years left. Nobody's fooling anybody. Stafford's probably not playing by the time 2028, 2029 comes around. And you get that quarterback, right. You get that Jackson Dart in the first round. You have a 5th-year option before you got to start paying him the big bucks if he works out. And NFL.com has him going to the Saints in the – wait. That can't be right. So we're just going to move on. But, yeah, that's the Jackson Dart situation. Kuiper has him going.
Why can't that be right?
Because it says here that they have him going to the Jets, 7 overall. So how could he be going to the Saints in the 2nd round?
Maybe that was PFN. I just put it in the wrong place.
Anyways, Jackson Dart's not a particular.
I'm sure that was PFN.
And you know what? To wrap this thing up, Thank God we don't have to really care where Jackson Dart goes because we got our quarterback. We don't have to worry about that. Can you believe it? Finally, we're not talking about it. I don't
Agreed.
know half these guys in the top 10. I'll put the hand up. I don't know half these guys in the top 10, and I don't care. I don't care because we're not there. We're not picking in the top 10. You guys have
That's a
bigger
bad
problems.
thing to admit after we just did a mock draft
I,
roundup.
I know more than half these guys, but I'm being
You
facetious.
sound like you did.
You got more. You guys got bigger problems to figure out than what you're going to do at tight end, Carolina Panthers, for example. Us, we're chilling, man. We're living good. Picking at 29, coming off an NFC Championship appearance. What's not to love? Go get Trevion Henderson, no matter what it costs. If you're not 1,000% sure he's going to be there for your second round pick him in the first round. Those are my closing thoughts. You got anything else, Pop?
Yeah, I guess the other interesting one is what Detroit does at 28. They're right before us, yes, because we beat them in the
Yes.
playoffs.
Just a reminder.
That probably has a lot to do with who's available for us. Like ESPN has them taking Donovan E, an outside linebacker from Boston College. So we'll be watching that Ravens pick and the Lions pick really to see who drops to us. And it's going to be a long night. We got to wait till pick 29.
Yeah, it'll be a late one. You watching all 20? You watching all 29 picks? Honestly, or you finding something else to do and kind of keeping up on the Twitter?
I'm sure I'll be distracted a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a multi-screen experience for me. I think I might have the TV going and then might have the laptop open with the draft or something like that. I mean, look, we're not drafting Jaden Daniels this year, so we don't really have to think about it. It's whoever comes to us comes to us, and I hope for once we can have some confidence that they're going to be a real contributor because last year we welcomed a lot of really talented players to the program, a la Jaden Daniels, Brandon Coleman, Mikey Samerstill, to name a few. So we can just get those slam dunks moving forward. I'd be super happy. So I think that's just about it for us. What do you say we wrap this thing up, Pop? This is a thorough podcast today. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
And thank you all for another great week, and hail to the Commanders.
Yeah.